From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone and welcome to Studio One. I'm Averi Haugesag.
And I'm Katy Wilson.
Today on the show, Endangered Species International says that over 12% of birds are listed on the endangered species list. We'll talk to an expert who is making efforts to change this.
Also, asbestos has been used commercially in North America since the late 1800s. The tiny fibers can actually cause cancer. We'll show you how people are being trained to test for this dangerous material, but first, a bomb from World War II exploded and killed at least 7 people at a warehouse in Bangkok, Thailand. The bomb accidentally exploded earlier this week. Workers at the plant say no one was aware of the explosives inside. The explosion leveled the warehouse and left a massive hole in its place. The blast was also blamed for starting nearby cars and homes on fire. Police are still investigating the scene. The bomb was believed to be used in airstrikes in early World War II. A new study says diet soda is no longer a healthy pick-me-up. The study found women ages 50 to 79 who regularly drink diet soda were more prone to cardiovascular issues. Women who drank the soda were 30% more likely to suffer from heart-related problems and 50% more likely to die from heart disease. The study's lead investigator says it's too early to tell people to change their habits, but more research is expected to be released later this year. If you're planning on selling your old car, now may be the time to part ways. Experts say the window to sell your used car at a great price may be slowly closing. With the economy currently in recovery stage, people are getting rid of their old cars. The National Automobile Dealers Association says that used cars prices are about to see their first decline in 5 years. Part of the reason for this is that inventory of used cars is going up.
Not everybody can afford to buy a new car, and with the depreciation and inflation with the economy, it's just used cars will always have a place.
In order for you to get the best deal, experts say you are better off selling it yourself rather than to a dealership. On average, you will see about 10 to 15% more, but sellers will have to be patient through this process, as it takes on average 6 to 10 weeks to sell a used car.
Some computers might soon know what you're feeling. A company called Emotionet has developed software that can read human facial expressions. It can detect happiness, sadness, anger, and other emotions. This technology will be used to monitor reactions of clients while watching sales pitches. It will also be put in phones and computers for personal use, such as online video conversations. In studies, the new invention was better able to read facial expressions than humans. There is a new concern about how it will work outside of the lab in big crowds of people as opposed to a video simulation.
Most people want to feel safe in the workplace. While working, some Americans are still being exposed to a silent threat.
For Marck Waltz, sharing knowledge comes easy.
Don't mind educating people.
The importance of education is critical. Marck commonly shares vital information to business professionals that could save lives.
Asbestos is a cancer-causing agent.
Asbestos, which is a fiber most commonly found in building materials, is still a threat today.
There are still products in manufacture right now in other countries being brought into the United States that still contain asbestos.
The required course that Marck is teaching provides a refresher for professionals who detect asbestos in local businesses. The 4-hour course provides the tools to save lives.
So that the people that are conduct our asbestos inspections across the country are all certified and have been properly instructed on how to do the sampling.
The main fear of asbestos is what it can cause.
And everybody has seen the attorney ads on late night TV for mesothelioma. It's cancer that can cause almost 100% death.
Asbestos is dangerous. The information that Marck provides inspectors translates into real results. The more people that are aware of asbestos and its consequences in the workplace, the less trouble it will cause in the future. Reporting for Studio One, I'm Will Biernat.
The Environmental Protection Agency requires businesses to stay up to date with asbestos regulations yearly. And that's the news for now. Avery?
All right, thanks, Katy. Let's go now to Timm Uhlmann for the weather news. Tim, how's it looking?
Thanks, Katy and Avery. In the Midwest, this past week was actually looking pretty snowy and a bit blizzardy as a large low pressure system swept through the area. In Grand Forks, North Dakota, they saw winds up to 50 miles per hour and up to a foot of snow as this system came through. A bit further south, there were areas that were both under a blizzard watch and a tornado watch at the same time. One tornado did actually touch down, knock down a few trees, and actually damage this barn here. Aftermath from the storm up north had several feet of snow as drifts formed against buildings in many areas, and those drifts were back up to where they were in February after having melted through most of March. Now, if we look towards the end of this March here, this March storm, where exactly the snow bands developed, there was this 14 to 20 inch band that went to northern Minnesota that just hit Grand Forks. As we go further south, that amount of snow slowly drops down. And in Fargo area, they actually had thunder snow, which is a thunderstorm that still is snowing. It's very cool for meteorologists because they like to look into those kind of things. And the temperature gradient was great enough down south that they actually reached temperatures upwards of the 60s. And that's where that tornado formed in Lyon County, Minnesota, and that's where they occurred that structural damage along with that barn. Now, all that snow lying around can cause problems later in the year when it melts. Winter has lingered longer than usual this year. A slow warm-up has caused some folks to be concerned whether spring will ever get here. Folks like Michael at the National Weather Service know that this slow start to spring alleviates some other concerns for the future.
Yeah, the cold, even though it was long, the winter was long and cold, it helped us on our flooding side.
Flooding is a common problem along the Red River Valley each spring. Melting snow is the most common source for the rapid rise in water levels.
Hydrologists look at it as frozen runoff waiting to be thawed in the spring.
In order to stay above the water, the National Weather Service has 34 forecast points along the river. Each forecast point determines when the flooding becomes a concern.
We're still several feet below flood stage for a lot of the points in the river.
A recent winter storm added some snow to the entire valley, but Michael says it's already been accounted for and spring is on its way. As the proverb for the Midwest goes,
and if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change, and we're trying to make that down to 3 minutes,
Unless the weather changes and adds a lot more snow, flood concerns this year will continue to be low. Timm reporting for Studio One. When they're trying to determine just how much water they have to account for in the river, it can vary from 8 inches of snow to 1 inch of water to 12 inches, depending on whether you get the light fluffy stuff or the heavier set and much wetter stuff. Now that brings us to our weather question of the week. Speaking of flooding, what depth of rapidly moving water is needed to move a bus? Now we're talking about moving water here, and our answers range from 6 inches to 2 feet, 4 feet, and 11 feet. And it's important, when you see moving water like that, Avery, you should probably just turn around and don't drown.
All right, thanks, Timm. Now we're going to head on over to Katy for a story that's a little bit more comical than usual. Katy?
Yeah, thanks, Avery. Most people like a good joke. We met a clown that likes telling them in the midst of dust and danger.
At a rodeo, you will most likely see cowboy hats, horses, bulls, and cattle. And sometimes, someone just like Mike.
He makes everybody smile all the time, he's one of those guys, when he walks in the room, it brightens your day, no matter if you've had the best day or you've had the worst day. He always makes it better.
There's a lot of downtime at a rodeo. Mike keeps the crowd entertained from start to finish.
If I can take people's minds off their problems for 2.5 hours and make them laugh and have a good time, then my job's well done.
And tonight, he did just that.
Yeah, he's real funny. I seen him here last year. Just a funny guy, good guy to know.
But he has help from his comical colleague.
We go back and forth to entertain the crowd. Sometimes I'd lead him into jokes, and sometimes Michael, lead me into jokes.
There's nothing no worse than telling a joke and nobody laughs.
There's more to these rodeo roadies than just jokes.
It's a big family, rodeo is.
In today's society, there's not a whole lot of families, okay? We are one big family. Everybody takes care of everybody else.
Well, it's just like having a family at home, I guess.
You will find a lot of things at a rodeo, like lassos, boots, and barrels.
Hey, yo, man, thanks for coming.
But family remains the focus.
In addition to being a rodeo clown, Mike is both a husband and a father. He says he plans to continue his life on the road with his family for the foreseeable future. You know, Avery, I got to see his son watch him perform, and he was just having a blast watching his dad.
It definitely looked like they had a lot of fun out there.
They did.
All right, thanks, Katie. You may be able to help save a feathered life by sifting through some web video. We'll talk to an ecologist whose research saves the lives of birds and the habitat that they live in.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by NDAD, helping others to help themselves.
North Dakota is facing challenges in healthcare delivery. The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is building a place to help meet the state's healthcare needs. In addition to a new structure, we're also building interaction between healthcare professionals while building a workforce through expanding class sizes. We're inspiring our youth to engage in healthcare careers and exploring ways to reduce disease. It starts here and ends here, building a better future for North Dakota.
At the University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, classes have real-life application. Mentors guide students. Our work improves quality of life by answering tough questions with creativity and innovation. The University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, training tomorrow's engineering and geology experts today.
University of North Dakota College of Business and Public Administration, connecting vision to innovation.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
In 2013, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service reported 1,436 endangered species in the United States alone. The USFW says that though we are running out of time, one way to prevent extinction is through research. Wildlife ecologist Susan Thaligi is here to tell us about some of her research her and her team have done to help save numerous bird species. Thanks for being on the show with us today, Susan.
Thank you.
So in a nutshell, can you kind of tell me what some of the research is that you and your partner have done?
Yes, so actually it's me and a team of undergraduates and graduate students, as well as a computer scientist, are looking at birds such as sharp-tailed grouse, which are not an endangered species, but an important game bird, and we're looking at their behaviors as well as how gas and oil is impacting them. And then we're also looking at behaviors and different aspects of federally listed birds of piping plovers and least terns.
Perfect. Okay, so besides the grouse, are there only the 3 types that you're doing? Are you doing the kinds by the Missouri River as well?
Those the plovers and terns are on the Missouri River.
Okay,
so
got it.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you start this project?
I started the sharp-tailed grouse in 2012, actually in my first summer here as a biologist in the biology department. And then we started the plovers and terns last summer. So we've been doing video for 2 years on sharp-tailed grouse, and we're just about to start our second field season with plovers and terns.
Very cool. So why do you think this research is important?
We can understand a lot about how we as humans are impacting the wildlife and in particularly different bird species. So this is important to understand their behavioral interactions with different animals on the landscape, some community ecology, but also just what implications things like gas and oil are having or activities on the Missouri River.
Very cool. So from what I understand, you guys use cameras a lot. Kind of explain that process to me a little bit.
Okay, so we find the bird nests, and that can be in a variety of different ways. Whether it's a grouse, we have actually little telemetry units, so they have a little signal that they emit. We figure out where they're at, and so we we'll locate their nests, and then we'll install a little tiny camera. And this is actually a grouse camera here. Cool. It's a standard surveillance camera that you could buy for monitoring surveillance and security. Yeah. And then it's camouflage, so it has some paint to cover it up.
So they can't see it.
So, yep, and it's about half a meter or so away from the nest that we put it. We pound the stake in, we put a much grass around it, and then we have a box that it runs back to, a cable does, and it's a little SD card that gets a DVR and an SD card, and it's powered by a battery, much like you'd have in your lawn tractor.
So do you guys only do the video during the day, or do you capture it 24/7? How does it work?
We capture it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The camera itself looks a little bit bulky, and that's because it has 24 LEDs, so little light-emitting diodes that allow us to capture video at night, which happens to be black and white at night, and color during the day.
Very cool. Now we have a video of some of the videos that you and your partner have captured a little bit here. Can you tell us kind of what we're going to be watching about? I mean, what are some of the videos that you've gotten?
We've got a variety of videos of predators, which is what you're watching right now. It is a harrier, so a raptor that is actually eating the eggs of a sharp-tailed grouse out in western North Dakota. Here we actually have a fortunate success of a nest, so little grouse are hatching and just starting to emerge. They'll emerge from the nest just within a couple hours after they actually hatch.
Oh, so they can walk right away.
So they can walk right away.
Very cool.
And here is actually where we were testing our cameras. So sharp-tailed grouse will congregate on what's called a lek. This lek is where the males will display for females, and when they do that, you get some very interesting dancing that they do, fancy footwork.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of cool.
Very exciting, yes.
So what made you want to start this specific project?
The sharp-tailed grouse one, I was interested in what was happening with the oil fields, the gas and oil fields, and so I wanted to know what was going on relative to the predator ecology and how birds were responding to it.
Now, what have you found so far in the oil fields? We'll start off with that one.
We'll start there. In the oil fields, one of the things we've seen is actually a little bit higher nest success, meaning that more of the nests are succeeding inside some of the intense gas and oil. Now, that seems a little strange, but what we're seeing, we're also monitoring the predators, and the predators seem to be shifting to areas with lower intensity of gas and oil, that the disturbances might be a whole lot too much for them, basically.
So now what sorts of things are you finding on the Missouri River then?
On the Missouri River, a lot of what we're actually looking at there is how monitoring methods that we as researchers do on the ground, we want to know how good we are at determining well, first, if the nest succeeds or fails, and secondarily, if it does fail, who are the responsible predators there. So far, we're finding our researchers are pretty good at accurately classifying whether or not it succeeds or fails, but some of the predators are hard to identify. Those might be crows or magpies. You could have some skunks on the Missouri River, some are raccoons, some are coyotes.
Got it. So can anybody watch this video?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we encourage it. So
how do you do that? How do you encourage it?
Well, as part of it, we collect literally hundreds of thousands of hours of video. And that means lots of hours for my team to look through. And they are extremely efficient, but not that efficient to get through all this video. So you can go to Wildlife at Home. If you Google that, you can come up with Wildlife at Home. It's a UND project that is essentially a team effort of computer scientists. My collaborator, Travis DeSell, in computer science here at UND, has designed a website, and you can go in, you can volunteer and sign up for an account and get a chance to watch video online and tell us what you see.
So quickly, one last question. What can people do to help save these birds?
One of the biggest things is learn about some of these impacts. It's great to understand what kind of implications we have, and so we want to see them, people just getting excited about conservation and trying to do things that encourage conservation.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Susan.
Thank you.
Coming up, artists' inspiration often comes from their roots. We'll meet a New York artist who came home to North Dakota to show his work. Perfect.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
It's not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
Some consider graduation the end of the college experience. For others, it's just the beginning.
And the university provided an environment where I could grow.
Many years after I graduated, I'm still receiving dividends from my experience as a student at UND.
The University of North Dakota Alumni Association is committed to growing the university by growing the alumni family.
At the University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, classes have real-life application. Mentors guide students. Our work improves quality of life by answering tough questions with creativity and innovation. The University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, training tomorrow's engineering and geology experts today.
Admire the faculty. They're the ones that kind of helped push me through this.
Courses are hands-on and interactive. The communication program has so many different facets to it. One of the great things about the staff in the communication department is that they love what they do. They encourage you to really critically think and analyze everything you're learning. They're so into it, and it makes you want to be into it.
If you would like to attend a live show, go to our website at studio1.und.edu.
The leader of the Avengers is back in the newest Marvel movie. Captain America is up against a new villain in the politics of his job. After the last Avengers film, Captain America tries to adjust to life in D.C. While fighting a villain named Winter Soldier, Cap is thrust into a conflict with the agency he works for. His morals are tested as his job pushes him into areas that are far from black and white. The Winter Soldier is Cap's toughest enemy to date.
On this film, I think we really get to show Cap advancing in his skills and stepping up the fighting a bit more. You know, I think, especially after Avengers, you see how amazing everyone on that team is and what they bring to the table. Cap needs to offer more than just a few good punches and kicks.
First-time film directors Anthony and Joe Russo set out to make this one part superhero movie, one part political thriller. The brothers say that they also wanted to make the movie as realistic, as grounded as they could. Captain America: The Winter Soldier bashes its way into theaters on April 4th. People often say spirituality is one of the keys to well-being. A recent Gallup study says people who attend church are more happy than those who do not. The report also shows that those people are especially happy on Sunday of every week. This underscores previous Gallup research that finds religious Americans do better across numerous dimensions of well-being. We wanted your thoughts on why you think churchgoers are so happy.
I think that they could be just because it provides a social output for people to experience together when they share the same values.
I think they should be a lot happier. It's a great way to start a new week, Sunday being the first day of the week.
I mean, personally, I go to church usually on a weekly basis, and it helps me, I get an interaction with the Lord that helps fill me with joy.
I think there's a lot that's left up in the air to define a direct correlation between those two.
I think the biggest thing is just, what is your faith to you? Where is your faith at? And some people can go to church their entire life and get nothing out of it.
I think there are other things that can make people happy.
A comment from our Facebook page from Richfield, Minnesota says, I can say I'm a pretty happy atheist and take some pretty heavy things to get me down, but I have a positive outlook on most things. Joe from Grand Forks, North Dakota says, I was happy with my drinking 3 nights a week and living the good life. When I started going to church, I realized that there was something more to live for, and it led me to loving Jesus.
People will go to great lengths to pursue a dream. We found a man who traveled more than 1,500 miles for his.
A person's younger years shape their future. For one artist, his love of art started with a simple Christmas gift.
Like a blank sheet of paper and some pencils. It was always one of my favorite gifts because it was like sort of this opportunity to make whatever I wanted to do.
After graduation, he packed up a car and headed to New York. Since he has moved out east, he's focused on art. He takes most pride in his piece painted under the Manhattan Bridge in Brooklyn.
And there's an archway there that they close off from traffic, and there's a metal gate there that I spent 3 weeks painting.
This piece consists of 22 by 12 feet of half-inch squares hand-painted to represent flowing water. Casey says although he is far from his roots, he still owes a lot of his success to the people back home.
You know, Casey didn't go to New York by himself. He had a lot of support back here, and there were other kids that he went to New York with. They've survived as well.
I love the landscape here, and I love the people, so it's just totally different.
Casey knew from a young age that expressing himself through artwork was his passion.
That's the one thing that always gets me excited is I have the possibility to make whatever I want, and no one's telling me what to do.
His passion took him to a big city to fulfill his big dream. I'm Tasha Olson, reporting for Studio One.
You can find out more about Casey and his work on his website at caseyopstead.com. You know, Avery, it's really neat that all those little pieces come together and make a bigger picture.
Yeah, and he got his pictures out in New York. I mean, out on the streets and everything. That's great.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, Tim is going to join us in our studio with a final look at the weather. Tim?
Thanks, Avery and Katy. We're looking at the weather for the next week or so. We're looking at cooler than average temperatures for the Midwest, all the way towards the Northeast, warmer than average, stretching from Florida through the Southwest and the West Coast. Drier than average conditions in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Wetter than average for almost everybody towards the north. That brings us back to our weather question of the week. What depth of rapidly moving water is needed to move a bus? We got 6 inches, 2 feet, 4 feet, and 11 feet. And our answer is B, 2 feet. So that doesn't seem like much water to move a bus, but there's a lot of force in that. It can actually carry off the road. So listen to Noah with Turn Around, Don't Drown.
It is amazing 2 feet can do that. I mean, for a bus, you'd think it'd be 6 or 7. It's
Yeah.
pretty wild. And that's our show for today. As always, you can follow us through social media or get more information on our website. From all of us here at Studio One, have a great week.
We'll see you next time.